And we're live.
We're back again.
Back. Look at this consistency.
On the roll.
I was saying this yesterday.
No one is stopping us.
Mate, we are unstoppable now. We're in full-fledged flow. Now, especially we got like a more of a routine with it. Instead of like just doing random days throughout the week, we've kind of said Wednesdays will be recording days. I think that's kind of sorted the problem like majorly as well.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Just good stuff. Well, good thing we started the call now, because otherwise we would have been waffling hard at the start of this episode. We've just spent the last 15 minutes just absolutely chatting shit to each other. Like stuff that cannot be repeated, unfortunately, live on air, because we'll get cancelled. And certain people will be very offended and not happy.
Yeah, certain people.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, will you guys be curious and wonder what that's going to be for the rest of your lives? And we'll move on. So, anything happened particularly this last week since the last episode? Anything particularly exciting happened?
Really, for me. Standard.
No one?
No, not really. Pretty standard, boring week, really.
But we like boring.
Yeah.
Because boring is optimal.
James has grown a beard since last
Yeah,
episode.
yeah, I saw that actually. Come
Yeah.
on.
I did have some hair, but I just shaved it all off because I was lying to myself, thinking I was going to keep it. So I just got rid of it. Just kept this.
Hey, that's what I did. Like originally, I only had the chin, and then if it's not fully there, you just don't let it.
Yeah,
Don't-
I kept it for a week and I was like, nah, I'm lying to myself. Get rid of it. So
Yeah.
keeping this and see. This is a week's worth of growth.
At the ripe age of 24. Oh.
I'll probably get bored of it, but like, nah, it's terrible. But we're keeping it.
I think that doesn't look too bad right now. They should look a little Italian, but that's about it.
Wait till I get a trim tomorrow and then it's game over. Back to
It's game over.
yeah. Let's go.
Oh, I'm quite excited. So I'm going to Dubai next Wednesday for 8 days. And I'm gonna see my barber there, and he's fucking sick. Like he cuts like a lot of well-known people's hairs. Like he's cut professional footballers' hairs and influencers' hairs. Like you know Oliver Forstland.
Yeah.
Yeah, he cuts his hair. Max Wyatt, he cuts his hair. And like a few of them boys in Dubai, he cuts their hairs, and he's also cut like Lovric, you know the centre back who used to play for Liverpool.
Yeah.
Cut his hair. He's cut Emre Can's hair.
Yeah.
Like, he's got quite he's done bare trims like bare with like famous people.
Yeah.
And like I went to him for the first time like a few years ago. And then he started his own barbershop and then moved to this place. It's fucking nice. So
But it's
before
expensive.
I come back, I'm gonna get my hair cut back short again. So like the other mode of hair I can wear, because he just does such a sick fade. Like such a
Yeah.
Is it expensive?
Yep. I bet it's expensive.
get a cheeky trim and a face mask for like £22.
£22.
£22. Yeah.
That's pretty decent. That's how much I pay for my skin fade. 22 quid.
I bet
You don't get a face mask, do you?
No, I don't.
It's such a nice experience, right? You walk in, they always go, "Oh, hello," and then they sit you down, tea, coffee, like proper tea, like proper coffee, like whatever you want. And like they got like music going, like it's proper like vibey, like they made it into like a proper experience, which is nice. Like you feel the moment you walk in, you feel like you're being taken care of almost, which is like quite nice.
That's it.
Unless you walk, like, and I'm walking to like a Turkish barber's, like sit down there, like so rough with your head, and they're like fucking, yeah, they're fucking going for it. And you're
Yeah.
like, oh, you just a little bit off the top. They're like,
Yeah. Barbers again, mate. That guy ruined it.
I mean, James, you weren't patient and waited for the guy I told you to see.
This guy, I felt bad. He's like, you want to go with me?
Yeah, he said he got very excited. Basically, so James ended up having to get his head cut
Made his day.
the day before, like at my hut barbers, because his ones were busy.
Yeah.
Like, I told him to wait for the guy that I see, and he was just too hasty because the other guy got really excited about cutting James's hair, and then was quite aggressive with it.
Yeah.
It was awful.
They take a tiny bit off. He takes this fade about up here, like, and then he takes his clothes off. And then he starts whacking my arm, getting all over it.
Yeah, mate, he goes for it, doesn't he?
Sprays it anyway.
Yeah, in fact, Jello wax? No, thank you. Okay.
Oh, it did a job.
Yeah, exactly. Better than no trim.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm quite excited to get my hair cut then before I come back. So I'm gassed for that. Because I feel like it's gotten very long. Like this, I don't know if it's not quite the longest it's been yet, but like it's getting head along, and I'm kind of starting to get sick of it again. But that's why it's quite nice. I can do this cycle of cut, and then grow and then cut and then grow and then cut. It is.
It's pretty good.
I think for show day I'll have it forward. I won't have it long. It'll be annoying with fake tan and shit.
Yeah, and if it keeps like flicking back, you have to keep pushing it back. And
Yeah, exactly. So should be decent. Right. I think that's the waffle concluded.
yeah,
Hey, for everyone.
We spun that, James.
Hey. Hair update for everyone.
Oh, fuck it. Why not? Well, we got on the topic of trims, didn't we? So I had to kind of give my opinion on the story. Anyway, so we're back with another training based today. So the last one we did was how to structure a push session. Now we're going to do how to structure a pull session. In terms of rear delts, back, and biceps. Again, we'll start with back, then we'll go on to rear delts, and we'll finish with biceps in that order, just from like. Actually, I would say like biggest and smallest, but rear delts and biceps are like pretty similar size, aren't they? So
yeah.
I mean, we'll start with back first, because that's basically like probably the more juicy part that everyone wants to know about. So straight off the bat, so in terms of back training, obviously we have a variety of different styles of exercise we can select. So we've got a hip hinge, we got a pull down, we got a row, we got pull over. Those are kind of like your 4 like basic movement patterns you get for back. So 4 or 5: pull down, row, pull over, hip hinge. Yeah. So that's kind of like all the general like different ranges of like motion when it comes to exercises you're going to get. Ranges of motion will be the movement patterns is probably a better word to use there. So we'll do is we'll go through a couple of different of each of those movement patterns, and then obviously we'll talk about some more details after that. So let's start from the floor up. So hip hinges. Charlie, talk to us about some hip hinges, which ones you prefer, and anything in particular you want to add on top of that.
Okay, so there's obviously a selection of hip hinges. The main 3 are RDL, stiff leg deadlift, and then just a conventional deadlift. You can throw sumo in there. Don't even bother because it's just a wacky exercise. And
rack pulls.
Huh?
And rack pulls technically.
Oh yeah, you could do rack pulls as well. We're not counting sumo deadlifts because it's not worth it.
It's not.
Yeah, rack pulls as well. So personally, it depends what you're trying to work. I mean, generally they'll all bring up like your whole back and posterior chain, including like your hamstrings and glutes. RDLs are a little bit more glute and hamstring focused, whereas if you look at like a deadlift or a rack pull, they're more sort of like back focused. Even though they'll still work your like glutes and hamstrings, they're predominantly more back focused. In terms of like which ones I prefer, like it's sort of they're all sort of pretty even in my opinion. Rack pulls, I'd say are least favorite just because I don't see the benefit as much of those compared to like a deadlift. But generally like a deadlift, a stiff leg, and an RDL, I'll literally rotate between all 3. So I'll probably spend a good 8, 9, 12 months doing an RDL. Then when that starts to stall, I'll throw in a stiff leg. Then I'll do the same for that, and then I may do a conventional or I might switch back to an RDL. And to be honest, like that's just how you should run hip hinges. Like it's just keep doing them, and just keep doing them for a long time, and then just rotate them when they start to stall. But obviously, you can rotate them if you've got like an injury as well. In terms of RDL as well, like you can use dumbbells because that's a good way of like switching it up, and especially if you want to focus more on that hamstring and glutes, I find that dumbbells are a lot better for that rather than like a barbell. But yeah, definitely program a hip hinge within your program 100%. I think a hip hinge just adds that like density and thickness to your like posterior chain that like rows and pull downs just don't quite add. Like I think it just adds some just thickness across your whole back that some things don't. So I would definitely recommend a hip hinge, just whichever one you get on with most, really.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think to add on to that, I think a lot of people, a lot of people like they usually complain about injury or uncomfortableness with hip hinges, and that's usually down. Well, the main thing usually is probably incorrect form. If you're practicing incorrect form, then I can understand why you potentially would be feeling some discomfort or getting injured from it. But I think if you know how, generally like 9 times out of 10 or 8 times out of 10, if you know the correct form and how to properly execute one of these hip hinges, because remember you said you don't have to do just one. You have the idea is you've got the choice there, so you could find what fits you best. So if you've got the form correct for at least one or two of these different types of hip hinges, you should not be running into any injury issues. I understand though there are some people who just generally they can't do it for injury or because they're like, look, even though I hit with correct form, my body just isn't suited to it, then that's fair enough. But generally, if you've got no excuse not to have a hip hinge in your program, then it should be in at least once a week, I'd say.
Yeah, and also to add on to like hip hinges, we can have a discussion about us three about this because I think we have pretty different opinions on this. Is if you should wear a belt when doing like deadlifts or RDLs. Now, my opinion is that you shouldn't unless you have a really bad back injury, but at that point you probably shouldn't be doing hip hinges anyway. Personally, I think it will show in your erectors if you don't wear a belt and if you learn to brace properly through your core without wearing a belt for things like that. That's my personal opinion. But I think some you two are maybe a little bit different. I'm not sure.
I'm for or against. I'm whatever suits you. I've deadlifted with and I've deadlifted without. And for me, I said this. I think it's just a comfortability thing. The only time I now wear a belt generally is if I'm doing barbell rows. And even though I don't have it on tight, I actually had the belt on just enough that I can like feel myself bracing. So I'm not actually using it for support. I'm using it as like a proprioceptive feel to make me think about bracing because I can feel my abs contracting, not because I've got on tight, but because I've got something that's applying slight amount of pressure to them. And even when I was deadlifting, I would not wear my belt tight whatsoever. I'd actually prefer to have my belt like that, just enough that I can feel it when I brace. For that exact
The only reason I say I'm against like belts is I think they're very overused because I feel like people start deadlifting, they don't wear a belt, then they try and go heavy, their form breaks down, they use like shit form, and then they think, oh, let me wear a belt, that'll make it safe. And then they carry on using shit form, and it's just not solved the issue when you could have just fixed your form from the start and carried on without a belt.
Yeah, belts are only use it when. Well, I think you should only use it when needed. Like, as you said, so many people, like lots of people rely on it when they start ramming the weight on. Obviously, them kind of lifts, it's quite easy to put a lot of weight on before you actually correct your form. But obviously, that's why you should really focus on the correct form. Start piling the weight on before even thinking about accessories like a belt, etc. Nail the basics, build up a good, strong deadlift for it. And then, depending on how much you're lifting, you can potentially use a belt, like bracing and that type of stuff. But I wouldn't say like I'm completely for or against. I'd just say it depends on the situation.
Yeah, I'd say going off that, I would say try doing what I do and just wear a belt loosely. Don't wear it. Don't have it so it's literally like squeezing the fucking air out of you. I literally, when I say have it just tight enough that like I can like feel like literally like almost like a shirt. That's how like almost loose it is. It's like wearing a tight shirt. And that way I literally I'm still aware of my breathing, but it's not like keeping me locked in whatsoever. Like it could be the same without a belt, but instead it's just giving me, as I said, that proprioceptive feel, that touch against where I need to make me not to make sure I don't switch off. Because we all know when you're trying to squeeze out one or two more reps on something as heavy as like a deadlift or an RDL, sometimes your head does go out the window a bit.
Yeah.
You almost go numb and you just think, I want this rep so bad. And then you don't feel those micro adjustments happening, that you're getting that little bit looser throughout a rep. And I feel like if you have that belt on, it'll just make sure you're still aware of it.
I think it also depends on your goal as well. Like you wouldn't necessarily give a lifestyle client a belt straight away, potentially, compared to like bodybuilding style. Like you're going all out training to complete failure. So it depends on your intensity, how hard you're training, your goal.
Yeah, I was gonna say that also adds on then, because as a lifestyle client, you might not be thinking about stepping on stage. So basically, you don't need that incredible density through your
No, exactly. So you might not need a hip hinge.
Yeah, and in which case, if it's better because you'd rather avoid a more technical lift that you feel maybe won't be beneficial to you, then that's completely fair enough. But as a bodybuilder, generally, as we said, there should be no excuse if you can do them.
So people talk about the risk to reward with deadlifts.
Yeah, no, it's like I feel like deadlifts it's such a simple movement that gets a lot of slack for injuries, usually from the uneducated side of the fitness industry, where people are like, oh yeah, deadlifts are gonna like break your back and like the risk reward isn't worth it. It's like, well, it is. You're just being twat and
Yeah,
not.
just being a twat and doing like 1 rep maxes every session. Like, if you're working above 5 reps and
Yeah,
up
if
to
you're
12,
doing a controlled, non-touch and go, if you're doing dead stop, especially,
yeah, exactly.
then you're just as likely to get like injured on that as you are to get exercise on a injure yourself on exercise like a dumbbell press or anything. Just like stepping in the gym is a risk versus reward thing. Like every time you step in that gym, something could go wrong. You could drop a dumbbell on your face, the barbell could not come up. You could like it's just like anything in life. Anything can kill you, but anything can make you stronger. It's all about how you go about it. Don't be a pussy, basically.
Basically, yeah.
Anyway, I think that
Right, that's covered hip hinges.
hinges with some extra sauce on top of that one. Okay, so then for the floor up, so let's talk about rows. So generally with rows, we've obviously got probably two different variations, well, like two different ways you'd obviously execute row for two different muscle groups. So obviously, generally the main one being a lat bias row, and then like an upper back, mid back bias row. So yeah, we can kind of like split those up into obviously the multiple different exercises. Like there's so many machines and exercises you can do on cables and dumbbells nowadays that like you should be able to find at least a couple of variations you can do in your gym to further your back thickness development. Because I think it's fair to say like rowing does the majority of the building in terms of thickness on top of hip hinging.
Yeah, I'd agree.
So James, do you wanna swing us through some mid back and I guess some row based exercises for mid back and lats?
So I'd feel like it kind of depends what your gym has available, because some gyms are way more well equipped than others. For example, independent bodybuilder gyms are going to have a lot more back focused equipment than your gym. So very common machine is a kind of mid back row. That's very commonly used in the majority of gyms, and lots of people kind of use. You can either use dumbbells or cables, horizontal rows as well. But it kind of depends on what area you want to focus mainly and what machine / variation you want to use.
Yeah, I was going to say as well. Generally, I would also make sure you have a mixture of chest supported and unchest supported rows. Getting your unsupported ones out of the way at the start when you are freshest and you have the least amount of fatigue and when you're just fresh and you've got that more energy to apply. And then once that obviously stability does start to reduce, as you get more fatigue, switch to chest supported stuff because it does make a massive difference, especially through for rows. The only thing I find with chest supported things is that people have a tendency to literally like start leaning back and going away from it to try to squeeze out of the rep. And the main thing with this, you've got to think about is putting yourself through the bench. Like when you're doing a rep, you're thinking about literally like putting yourself directly through like the solid object, and I find that keeps me more upright and locked in. So yeah, in terms of my favorites, I'd say my favorite like upper back row I've been doing is that incline dumbbell row. The one I think I've showed you, James. Like it's unreal. Like you get massive stretch, massive squeeze. For a heavy dumbbell row, I still get rather a lot of my muscle connection with it as well. If anyone's like following me on Instagram, like I've posted it a few times.
It's set up in any gym as well. You don't necessarily need the machines.
Yeah, exactly. It's great. You just need dumbbells and you need a bench. Yeah. And that's why I found is growing the density in the my upper back, like my upper mid back. And then favorite lat biased row, the single arm low row is always quite good. If you set it up right, make sure you're biasing, dragging that elbow low and down, and you don't need to bring your elbow all the way past you and twist and lean back. Literally, stay dead up wherever your arm finishes here, and that's the maximum amount of range of motion you have. You don't need to start leaning forward to try and feel like, oh, I'm making more ROM, because it's just not how it works. The lat stops once the arm is fully lengthened. So once you're there, stay upright, drag, come to inline, tuck it in nice and deep into that pocket next to your hip. And that's all you need to do. And instead of adding all this extra random fucking clown shit onto your fucking rows, because it's just such a common mistake that I see in the gym, especially like, I mean, me and Charlie now work in gyms. I'm not sure how bad the standard of form is at the coach, but I've seen some outrageous things.
Yeah, I mean, it's not too bad to be fair. There's a few absolute melts in there, but most of the time it's all right. But yeah, I can imagine. Like, I mean, even when I've been in gyms like myself, like you see, and I'm sure James has seen, like just some people like doing horrendous form, especially in the evening. It seems to be the evening, like they just go wacky
Because
and
they come in like all jacked up on caffeine, and it's like,
yeah,
wow.
Gyms are the worst for it as well.
yeah, literally.
Yeah, like what? Oh, yeah, like even at Rotherham, like you even get some shit form at
Yeah,
Rotherham.
yeah, you can.
It just goes to show you, it's just things, just any gym really.
Yeah.
So make sure you do not listen to them. They don't know fuck all. Go onto a proper educative page, whether it be
Education.
Instagram. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and learn the right stuff, learn how to do it the right way. Because realistically, you don't want to be that guy who looks and everyone goes, "What the fuck is he doing?"
Yeah, literally.
So yeah, so that kind of concludes like my favorite like lat row and then upper back row. Charlie,
Uh,
you can shout out special machines if you want. I was just trying to give one that's a good example for obviously like no matter where you are.
yeah, I think lat row would probably be similar, like any sort of cable or machine, like single arm lat row. As long as you like just line up really correctly. I think like that is just phenomenal. In terms of like mid back, upper back, prime plate loaded row.
But the extreme one,
No, not the extreme one. The mid back,
oh yeah, that is a beast.
mate. That is phenomenal. That is a phenomenal row. And then also like a good T-bar row as well.
Yeah, a good T-bar, yeah.
I really like if you've got a good one. I do like a good T-bar.
I think that
But then that comes into the problem where, like you said, Josh, where people start like leaning back so much and just like trying
Chugging
to.
so much weight and doing hard.
Yeah, it's the thing. But if you do it right, T-bar is just phenomenal.
Yeah, T-bar is one of those exercises you have to program early on because of how hard it is to get short.
Yeah,
You can easily let yourself go with your like the ROM on your reps. Like you think you've got onto the top, but because you're almost like when you get the really heavy sets on back and you go so numb, you can't even feel how high your elbows are going anymore.
yeah,
It's just like and you're like, have I got high enough? I have not. So yeah, definitely program T-bar a little bit earlier on in the session.
yeah. I haven't even. Oh, I forgot even to mention about the old barbell rows, mate. They're a good old staple.
I have not. Yeah, I brought them back in for the last 6 weeks. I just haven't liked them.
that's
Have
one
you not?
I've never gotten well with. I just
Really? It took me like a good month to like really. I had to like scale it back to like 80 kilos and like really learn it, and then like now I'm fucking flying with it.
Yeah, no, I did because I got up to 120 for like 8.
Yeah,
Um, and like I was a bit more lent over, like we were talking about. Um, and yeah, no, I just don't like. I don't know. I just don't like it. It's just I don't like movements I'm not like more in control of. Like it's
Mm.
just such an unstable movement. It's like one of the most unstable movements you can do because you're trying to keep your body still and then moving just like pretty much just your arms
Mm.
when you're not supported, chest supported, nothing. You're like holding like a semi fucking RDL.
Yeah,
It's just so unstable. Like so, yeah, I did struggle. Like I was progressing with it, but like it felt like even though every time I do, I film it, but if I look back at that video, it's gonna look shit. But I'll look at the back video and they look fine. I'm like, it's so confusing because then how am I supposed to know when I'm actually shitting, like doing shit form? Because if I'm doing good form, but it feels like I'm doing like a really shit movement, then like what if I stop? I'm just gonna keep stopping like reps early because I feel like I'm doing bad form. Does that make sense?
yeah. I feel like barbell rows, not to just. I'm not saying just fucking swing it around,
Mm.
but I'm saying like it's one of their movements that isn't like a whole connection based move. I think like if you just like get after it and row like until it get like I think you can sort of tell when you sort of get like a shrug, but as long as it doesn't turn into a shrug and you just fucking go after it, I feel like that's sort of like a movement that yeah, it might not feel like you've had a really good set, but it actually is, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's like kind of like a deadlift in the sense of like you don't really feel it working, but it's doing something, you know.
Yeah.
But
Deadlift's more stable than fucking barbell rows though.
yeah, I think it is just down to personal preference really and how you get on with it.
Yeah, I think barbell rows is ones. If you can do it, great. If you can't, then so be it. Like
It's not a
it's
massive like
no.
thing. It's not like a must-do exercise like a deadlift is.
Yeah, no, 100%.
I think with back training, there's so many different variations. Why is that there? There's so many different variations that you need to find a movement path that actually works well with you in an exercise. And this is it's not focusing.
And it's so quiet.
We're back.
Speak more into the microphone, James. You're very quiet.
No, it was my mic thing not working. Yeah. Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, with back, there's so many different variations. You need to find an exercise you actually get on well with and can actually progress. There are so many options. Various machines and compounds and dumbbells.
I also think like generally if you go to like especially like an independent gym, but generally it has a lot of back variation machines. Like there's loads of machines out there for back, and normally gyms have quite like there's a good few selection that you can have. So play around with like different like handles, grips, things like that, and just find like sort of what works for you.
Yeah. I was going to say as well, there is obviously with back training, I think more than any. I think back and legs, I'd say. So there's with these two muscle groups, there's merit to two things, and that is merit one. Sometimes yes, you're not going to feel it, and you do need to shift weight. But at the same time, every muscle group you need to have exercises you're choosing for feel and my muscle connection. I feel like with chest, this always should always be there. Like I feel like you should not be doing exercise you don't really feel with chest. If that makes sense.
I agree.
But like legs and back, because they are such big muscle groups, when you have to think when you're dividing stimulus over like a larger like amount of muscle groups, it's hard to feel. Versus if you're stimulating it in fewer like regions, you're gonna feel it more. So obviously that's why legs and back being two biggest muscle groups on the body, then you're gonna have to choose exercises you don't feel, but also make sure then you're not neglecting the exercises you do feel. Because I say that's been the main thing I took my back training to the next level was choosing those, having the base compound of a deadlift, but then choosing exercises after it, which I can actually feel, not just doing because everyone does them and they look good. Like it's choosing exercises which are good for you. Like back doing like lat pull downs, like a really wide grip and thinking was working my lats, and I was doing mid back the whole time. And like doing really heavy swingy low row with that neutral, close neutral grip and stuff. Like it was just making sure I was then very specific after. I was like, okay, I'm going to go and try several different back exercises. I'm going to find ones which I really connect with, and I'm going to see how far I can take those. And that's definitely worked fucking merit for like especially like my upper back thickness. I feel like it's definitely done a lot of merit for that.
Yeah.
And then let's move on. So pull downs. Charlie, you want to go again?
The GOAT. Let's just start. The GOAT of pull downs is the single arm pull down, especially with the prime attachment on the Cyrex Bravo with the chest support in the middle. Unreal. But to be honest, any single arm pull down on like a cable with a D handle and a bench, like to brace against, the best movement for your back. I'm guaranteed.
You're so passionate about this, bro.
Honestly, ever since I've started doing this movement, I swear to you, my back has blown up. Like it feels amazing. Like it just everything about it is just beautiful.
You're just not the only one, because this is the kind of exercise that's blown up on social media, especially TikTok.
It has blown up, but for the right
reasons. Back, like for like the majority of people, I'm pretty sure back is like one of the muscle groups they connect with least, and because it's an exercise which you connect with so fucking intensely, everyone's like,
yeah, but it's blown up for the right reasons because it is a very good exercise if done correctly.
Yeah, 100%. Like I literally had them today, and I'm doing the whole stack and fucking gym pinning it.
Yeah. How much do you on the Cyrex?
So the whole stack and a template.
15, mate. Unlucky.
Coming back for you, bro. I need to put it back in today. So
wait. Do you use the prime grip though?
No, I don't.
No, so we use the prime grip. So we don't even use straps.
Yeah, I reckon I can still do it. My grip strength's fucking gnarly, bro.
Yeah, well, don't use straps.
Anyone watches me train back, they go, what the fuck? Because like when I'm doing mid back rows and stuff, or like rows, I literally I hold it like on the last.
Oh, you do actually. I've noticed that.
Yeah, don't I? I can literally hold it on my 3 fingertips, and like everyone's like, "Is that gonna go?" And I'm just like this. Just fucking go for it, bro.
Clawing the weight back.
Yeah, all girls who are looking for a good time, fucking call me up.
Hey.
But yeah, the single arm pull down is fucking goated, mate. It is fucking so
Honestly,
good.
goat of back movements.
Yeah. Give
and then
another pull down variation.
another pull down variation, you can just go for like your standard like wide bar pull down, which is like if you do it like it is a mid back upper back movement. It's not a lat movement.
I was gonna say, yeah, with
It's not like it says lat pull down, but it's not. It's mid back upper back pull down. But obviously it depends what gym you go to. If you go to like more of an independent gym, I'm sure they'll have loads of different grips, like mag grips, close grips, loads of different attachments that you can stick on, and like depending on which area you're trying to target, you can sort of change your grip accordingly. But obviously, if you're in like a commercial gym, it'll sort of be like the standard bars for like pull downs, really.
I was gonna say, yeah, with pull downs, make sure you know what muscle group you're targeting. Just because doing a pull down does not mean it's going to be a lat pull down.
No.
Make sure you know which ones are which, and which ones you're doing for the right reasons. Because as I said, like most people will go on that lat pull down machine and just choose the wide bar and end up doing mid back rows.
Yeah, and they wonder why they've got no lats.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, make sure you know obviously which ones you're doing. James, any other pull down variations you can think of?
If you do, considering the topic you just said, if you do,
Hey, you speak up. Your mic is fucking dead.
I don't know why it's doing that. Considering the topic you were speaking about, if you do want to focus on hitting your lats, hey, is it that quiet?
Yeah.
I don't know what's wrong with it.
Don't know.
Yeah, if you do want to hit your lats when using the pull down variation, what you can easily do is put D handles on the side of the normal kind of handles that are there.
Easy bars.
Yeah.
Yeah, around the dips of the easy bar, yeah.
Exactly, and then that will allow you to drive the elbow bar to your pocket and actually focus on hitting your lats rather than upper back focus.
Yeah.
Lots of people are getting more knowledgeable about now, which is good.
Yeah. Yeah. Just a standard neutral grip pull down basically does a treat, and the more in line with your shoulder path you can be, the better. So we'd obviously draw that here if we can, literally just outside of shoulder width, so we can stay obviously nice and line. It's not going to make our elbows flare out or anything like that, or be painful on the wrists. So yeah, so generally that kind of covers like obviously we could go on and on. We could say okay, but then you got the Nautilus Nitro pull down, like
The Nautilus.
yeah, so we got all these other like sick machines. Obviously, we can appreciate obviously not everyone's got obviously access to this equipment. So obviously that's why I thought we would try and keep the exercise selection obviously as applicable to you guys, kind of in your circumstances. Like these are all exercises. All you need is dumbbells, and and cables, but realistically, and a barbell. So like realistically, back as much as back training, like it's nice to have like the prime mid back pull down and the Nautilus Nitro pull down. Like it's good. It's all nice having all these like bits of the kit, but nail your basics. Not everyone's gonna have access to this. We don't all go to an ultra flexible room or a coach or etc. So if you don't have these pieces of equipment, do not fret. There are options for you. Okay, because basically every gym should have dumbbell cables.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, so that kind of like ties in basically everything together. So make sure across your week you have, as you kind of said, one of each. Oh, we also got pullovers as well, but like I feel like there's not really much to talk about pullovers.
No, because to be honest, like not many definitely any commercial gyms that I know have a pullover machine. So you're pretty much going to be doing road pullovers, which
or a long rope from 1 mile, obviously as well. That's
yeah, exactly. So pullover is just like another exercise that you can add in as like sort of like
pre-activator or as a finisher.
Yeah, pretty much. That's how I'd program it.
Yeah. I never ever had like a pullover like mid-session. It would ever usually
either at the start or the end.
Yes, I mean, yeah, you just bang either side. Again, it's one of those things. It's not a necessity. If you're not too fussed about doing a pullover, then maybe just putting it at the end, maybe one session out of your 2 a week. Because again, we talk about this. If you want a muscle group to go, you're gonna have to train it frequently. So if you can just tag it onto one end of your sessions, who knows? Maybe it might contribute a little bit to your lat growth. Yeah, and then generally across the week, you only need to hit hinge once a week. You don't need to do much more than that, to be honest. I mean, I was doing one set a week, and I found that I was still progressing and still growing. So, yeah, one hinge a week, maybe like 2 to 3 different pull down variations, a mixture of single arm variations and bilateral variations.
Yeah.
Rows, have a mixture of rows for lats and also for your like upper back, mid back. Making sure with back, I feel like the main thing that people go wrong with back is, well, there's a few things, but swinging, body swinging is the main culprit, and 2 is elbow path. It doesn't matter what angle you have your chest, it doesn't matter what way you position your body. If your elbow is not directing through the part of the back you're trying to contract, you will not contract it. Because I see too many people doing upper back rows and their elbows are like tucked in as if they're still going through the lats. You've got to like flare that elbow out to get the part of the back you want to contract. If your elbows are tucked in the whole time, it doesn't matter how much you squeeze up your back and you like almost like do a freaking I'm having an absolute fucking mind blank here, boy. Give me one moment. Shrug is like you're just shrugging it up the whole time. It doesn't matter. You need to have that proper amount of scapular retraction and also elbow drive through obviously what area of the back you're wanting to train. That also might be like the hole in some people's training. Oh, I'm doing all these upper back rows, but why is my back growing? It's like because your elbow path isn't directing in the way you want it to go. So you might just need to be reassess the form in that respect. I think generally a couple of different rows, lats up back, couple different pull downs, one exercise on the RDLs a week or a hip hinge of sorts, and that should be you merry.
Rear delts, biceps, cover them quickly.
Yeah. So rear delts, I think again is also quite heavy neglected muscle group. No one really I feel like one of the things you see missing in a physique is that full roundness to a delt. As you've already said, front delt is not the biggest contributor. It's the side and rear delts.
They're commonly missing unless you look at Adam Powell. His rear delts are fucking.
My rear delts are like bicep in the back of my fucking shoulders, mate. I remember I commented actually. I posted a back lat spread once. Someone commented and was like, "Bro, why the fuck are your rear delts so fucking out of proportion to the rest of your arms?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" But no, yeah. So rear delts we won't fuck about for too long. Rear delts are pretty simple. Just do them two times a week. You will obviously hit them when you hit back. When you're rowing variations, especially. So making sure you're doing some kind of cable pull apart or reverse peg deck, I'd say.
And then like any upper back rows will be targeting your rear delts.
Any kind of row will hit them anyway. So just making sure you're doing like if you've got one motion going here, that's going to be working the shortening. So basically, you do want to have some kind of pull apart to obviously work it in that lengthen range. And then also kind of mix up the rep ranges. Do a variety of rep ranges with rear delts. Because they're a smaller muscle group, they can recover faster. And so I do a mixture of like 8 to 12, 12 to 15s, 15 to 20s, and then like kind of work between that like 8 to 20 range. And you should get some good volume, and they should grow in theory. All things going well. I think we don't need to talk too much more about rear delts, do we?
No, I don't think so.
Just make sure you don't neglect them and do them.
James, do you want to take away with biceps since you've got the biggest biceps?
I've definitely not got the biggest biceps. I don't know about that.
Unfortunately, our group is notorious for having rather weaker arms.
Yeah. My arms are awful.
And unless you see me hit a fucking group shot, I'm on the left side, then I'm all good. Then my arms are OP as fuck. James, I can't remember if it was one of you two started noticing, like Josh, whenever you get on the left side of a group picture, it's just not fun. Yeah,
mate, but I grabbed the left side when we were at Canine, not Canine, Electric City.
Yeah, I was like, you bastard, that's my strong ass.
Josh always gets that side on the pitch as well.
Yeah, I know, he does. Somehow he does.
I mog everyone. I don't understand how my arm doubles in size.
Right, James, the mission for the October event is to not allow Josh to get the left side.
That side.
Yeah, he's got to be in the middle. He's got to be in the middle.
Let Cam have it because Josh keeps mogging him.
Yeah, Cam have it.
Oh mate, yeah, poor Cam. I do apologise. I feel bad for Cam. I actually do fucking show him up a few times in some pictures because he's half the time he's not ready for them, or he's just like he doesn't help. He's a pale boy, but Anyway, we won't talk. We won't insult Cam too much more.
Poor guy, Mr. Jameson.
Jameson.
Uh,
Oh, I love that boy. Anyway,
moving on to biceps anyway. So there's 3 heads of the bicep: short head, long head, and
you see, there's 3 heads to the bicep.
2 heads. Yeah.
The 3, so
Yeah. Sorry.
bro, bi meaning 2.
Oh well. Oh, 2. Sorry.
Right, you had 2 triceps.
Sorry, my bad. Yeah, the short head, the long head, and Branca. That has ruined my plane now.
I'm so sorry, James. I had to show you up like that, but I can't let that anatomy slide. Charlie's gone.
Sorry, my bad. Anyways.
Right, carry on.
James is a trisexual.
Maybe whatever you've been smoking, Josh, I've had some of that tonight. So yeah, focusing on the long head. So I'd say my favourite exercise for this is incline dumbbell curls. That's where your elbow is behind your torso, and it's probably my favourite exercise. Focusing on the long head, really good exercise to progress. And then you can do other variations with cables or dumbbells, really mainly, depending what you have available. And then in terms of a short head, you can do preacher curls. Most gyms kind of have a preacher curl machine, don't they? Like even kind of pure gyms.
Yeah.
You can do that with dumbbell variations. You can even set a dumbbell in front of cables. It depends. It kind of.
Yeah, I was gonna say with biceps, making sure you've got 3 different exercises that cover 3 different elbow starting positions. So one when the elbow starts behind you, one when the elbow starts in line with you, and then one starts with the elbow in front. And that should generally cover like obviously doing a mixture of like not just obviously normal like obviously open palm stuff, but obviously hammer and neutral grip kind of curls as well for that brachialis. Because I think people neglect like obviously just that outside head with it by not doing like hammer stuff. Because obviously if you look from the front on, the arm thickness you're going to see from the front on is going to be from that brachialis on the outside here. Making sure you train that as well. Obviously that's being super specific, and obviously we can appreciate that like it's very like as much as we say all these like individual specific muscle groups, obviously like it's impossible to 100% target like these parts of the muscle. Like, say, oh, upper chest, like you're going to use your whole chest. Obviously, you're just biting different, obviously, portions of it. So yeah, mixture of hammer stuff, mix up the elbow starting position, and that's kind of really about it. I don't think you think of anything else.
Not really, just train them
That's
hard.
everything else, yeah.
Just leave them to the end. Like, don't just half-ass them at the end of your session. Give them like your full attention, like you train them at any other muscle group. And you'd be surprised how much volume they can have. I know we spoke about this when we did triceps, when we did the push video, that we train them like a lot more than we would do like, for example, chest or something like that with delts. So you can program in a lot more sets for biceps and they'll still recover absolutely fine. So
yeah, I was gonna say also make sure again variety of rep ranges as well. Ones where you touch maybe slightly on the heavier side, but obviously generally I'd say would stay to higher volume stuff with arms, just for risk of injury, because you don't want to be that guy who's like trying to curl 40 kilo dumbbells and fucking tears his bicep.
yeah,
As much as these muscles groups can handle more volume, they are also way more susceptible to injury because they are smaller. So just be careful.
yeah, don't want some sort of Larry Wheels bicep tear going on.
That's
Anyway, I think that concludes Paul. So I hope you guys have enjoyed that one. Obviously, there was a mixture of very highly educational stuff, and there was also a mixture of us being bimbos. Mostly James today.
Actually did go to university. Surprisingly.
Yeah, imagine he's the only one that's gone to university.
Yeah,
Well, the only man gone uni. You know.
It's been a long day, right?
Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
Blame on that.
Well, again, hope you enjoyed. So we'll catch you guys in the next one. Hope you guys are enjoying the consistency on these again. So like, share with a fellow cunt, follow, subscribe, all that fucking good stuff. And we'll catch you guys in the next one. So peace, love, and see you later, mate.
Peace.